Walk us through that process a little bit of like how you started going through getting that EPA certification. How did you guys even get going?
So we basically followed the replica car law to the letter. Basically,
Okay.
when I was hired on, like I said, we decided right away we wanted to be a manufacturer. Then the question became, okay, how do we do that? What are the steps involved in how to do that? The first thing was to get our NHTSA certification, basically the safety programs, and basically go through the replica car law with a fine-tooth comb and see exactly what we had to do. It actually leads you down the road. For the electric vehicle, it's a little bit different. For gas cars, you have to meet certain EPA regulations for, chemicals in the air, stuff like that. With the electric vehicle, because it doesn't produce any emissions, it's basically just range. Uh,
Hmm.
Part of NHTSA's certification process, some of the paperwork that I had for NHTSA is I had to have an EPA range test, which is basically, so we had to find out, okay, how do I get an EPA range test? Because, there's very few electric car companies in the United States. How did Tesla go about it when they first started out? Or how did, Lucid or Rivian start? How did they find out how they need to get their EPA range test done? So we did a lot of in-depth research on the back end of that, and SEMA, what we found out was SEMA Garage actually offered it through their Detroit SEMA Garage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got into talks with them and said, hey, can you do it? They had never done it before. We were the first ones to actually have an EPA range test done at SEMA Garage in Detroit. So got together and we basically took the truck there, allowed them to do the range test all and go through all of the things that the EPA asked for a range test. Got all the data back on it. Basically submitted to NHTSA, get all our certifications going. The whole process took about 11 months, back and forth with government agencies. A lot of times, and I don't know if you're aware, but if you're dealing with the government, this guy don't know what this guy's doing for the most part. So you have to go through NHTSA, and then you have to go through EPA, then you have to go through ASC to get a certification letter, to get your world, index number. So the whole process is time consuming, a lot of treading water, a lot of spinning on the squirrel wheel until I finally got everything kind of gathered up and right in line for us to issue the VIN numbers. So
11 months feels like it's screaming fast. I got a custom license plate
yeah,
submitted so that it says EVTUNERS, and that was 9 months to get it in
yeah.
the mail.
So and what I tell my boss is, and when he hired me, and I think that's part of the reason why he hired me, is that if I'm all in, I'm pedal to the floor, hammer to the nail. I want to keep going until I achieve what I need to achieve. And a lot of these, especially dealing with the government agencies, it's a lot of hounding them. You know what I'm saying? Staying on them on a regular basis, making sure they know who you are. If you just file the paper, let the paper sit there, a lot of times it can get filed away. So it's a lot of on the phone, on the computer, emailing, all the good things.
Yeah. Was there a moment where it started feeling real when you got maybe a moment of celebration?
Yeah, I mean, because we got our EPA certification and our NHTSA, everything put together. It all came together right before SEMA of last year. We had shown at SEMA in 2023. We had shown our cars. We had a few out there. We had the GT, we had the trucks, and we were just kind of fledgling. We were like second year in. This is what we want to do. This is how we're doing it. Last year, right there before SEMA show, I think it was November 1st, I got the actual EPA paper with all our certifications. So it was like, all right, this is a real deal now. Now we are actually a licensed manufacturer in the United States, and ended up being the first replica car manufacturer for electric vehicles in the United States. So that was when it says, okay, now we got to build cars and now we got to sell them.
Now you got to get to work.
We got to get to work.
That reminded me of another question with some of the NHTSA certification and the EPA certification. Did you guys have to create cars to get crash tested, or how did that all work?
So because we're part of the replica car law in the United States, as long as we are building a replica of an existing vehicle, then we have to follow the guidelines that existed at the time of that build.
Interesting.
So I have a sticker that has to be mounted on the vehicles that basically say, hey, this is a replica vehicle. It does not have the same safety requirements as a modern vehicle.
But Did you guys make some decisions in the new components that you were using that maybe give these an edge probably over something that really is from the 50s?
Correct. So what we've basically done is we redesigned the frames to be stronger. So our frame and suspension systems are more modern than what
Hmm.
they were in 1950. Our springs, our brake systems, we got power brakes all the way around, power disc brakes. So we've upgraded all your brake systems. So you got more modern braking, which is, of course, a lot safer.
Yeah.
A lot of the body components that are on it, they're reinforced. So we go inside and we reinforce. So we build the whole entire body ourselves. They send us stamp parts and we assemble it. So we were able, because we do that, is we go in there and add reinforcement when there wasn't before to make it a little bit stronger.
So it is a replica that maybe is a little better even.
Yeah, what we like to say is we take that original truck and we tweak it. We make it turn up the volume just a little bit, make it a
Hmm.
little bit better than what it was originally, a little bit safer, a little bit more drivable than it was back in 1950.
I love that. So you said in 2026 is going to be the SC31T with the larger battery pack, but it really sounds like this is the beginning of what you guys have planned at Southfield Classics. Is there anything else you can talk about that's on the horizon for people?
We've got several projects that we're working on for for the coming year, probably 27, 20, into 26, into 27. We're going to do an all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, full-size truck, probably that body style from the early 70s.
Oh,
We've already got it
cool.
on the drawing board. We've already started some of the CAD designs and some of the CAD drawings for the frames and chassis. And we're also looking at doing a convertible, probably a Chevelle, somewhere along that lines. Right now, what we do is with our trucks, we buy certified GM parts. So basically, General Motors says, "Hey, this part we certify it. It's a good General Motors replica part." So what we try to do is use the genuine GM parts. So that's why we're going with a lot of General Motors stuff at this time.
Is that the plan to stick with GM?
Yeah, we're open, but in the pipeline right now, we're staying with the General Motors. We do have the GT, which of course is a Ford product, but
That's right.
we try to we're staying away from a lot of what a lot of other companies doing. And I'm sure you've seen there's a lot of people doing the Broncos and some of that. So we try to steer away from that, do our own thing, try to be our own company, and do something unique that nobody else does.
Well, I think it's clear you guys are being successful in that regard, and I'm very excited to see what you guys put out next. From your kind of background in doing this for 38 years, is there a dream car that is not on the drawing board yet that you'd love to see get there?
I'm a purist when it comes to that, so I don't know if my favorite car is the Impalas, so I like the 62, 3, 4 Impalas. Whether or not we'd ever get to an electric on it because of the frame style, it's got an X style frame on it. We may look at it as we go down the line, but it'll probably be a little while.
Fair enough. But as we're kind of rounding out the conversation here, a couple of other questions for you, Dan. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about building EVs?
I think a lot of people spend too much time thinking about the environmental effects that it has. Yeah, that's great. It's great for the environment. It cuts down on emissions, it cuts down on all the things. I think a lot of them miss the performance aspect of it. That you look, it's still a hot rod, man. These things are super fast. The technology is there that brings it. It's a future of where hot rodding is going. No matter what, we're all going to have to move to that. Eventually, gas burning, ice engine, ice is going to be a thing of the past. What I tell everybody, and I've said this several times, they told Henry Ford that the automobile would never take the place of a horse-drawn carriage, and it did. So basically, that's where at that beginning stages in the electric vehicle thing, a lot of people are seeing that's the future. That's where we're going. Uh, they kind of, well, it's good for we're not into the environment. We want to burn gas and all that stuff, but that's just a preconceived notion. I mean, these are just as fast. In a lot of cases, I can smoke you. So,
Yeah, maybe that's the part to focus on for people who
correct.
like speed and performance.
That's right.